sometimes the biggest lies don't hide in whispers or tabloids, etched in official records, wrapped in prestige, and repeated so often that people stop questioning them. For years, the world believed Meghan Markle, the actress, activist, and duchess, was a proud alumna of Northwestern University, holding two impressive degrees, one in international relations and another in theater. It painted a picture of brilliance, the perfect resume for someone destined to join the British royal family. But here's where the story bends. Northwestern University itself says that such a degree doesn't exist. Not that Meghan didn't earn it, but that the program was never even offered. So how did a degree that never existed end up carved into royal history, posted on the monarchy's own website, presented as fact to millions? Today we're pulling on that thread because what begins as a harmless academic embellishment spirals into something far more revealing. Let's rewind to what the public was told. On the royal family's official website, under the Duchess of Sussex, the biography proudly declared the Duchess went on to double major in theater and international relations at Northwestern University, graduating in 2003 with a dual degree. Sounds ordinary, right? Except there's a problem. Northwestern University has never offered a dual degree in international relations and theater. When investigators reached out to the school's admissions office, the response was swift and definitive. No such program has ever existed. To put it simply, the royal biography listed a qualification that couldn't possibly have happened. And this isn't just a typo. This is an official government-backed record, a digital archive of royal life. If Buckingham Palace couldn't verify something as basic as a college major, what other facts might crumble under scrutiny? Meghan's academic story, as told by the palace, reads like a fairy tale. 2 majors, multilingual fluency, glamorous internships abroad. But when you cross-check it with the university's actual academic structure, it simply doesn't add up. Here's what Northwestern's own system shows. Dual degrees take a minimum of 5 years to complete and are only offered between specific departments, such as communications and engineering. Meghan attended Northwestern from 1999 to 2003, 4 academic years total. That's not enough time to complete a dual degree program, especially when the 2 subjects belong to different schools within the university. Theater lives under the School of Communication. International Relations belongs to the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. Different advisors, different requirements, different credit systems, meaning it's structurally impossible to graduate with both in 4 years. When researchers emailed the university in early 2024, Northwestern's official statement couldn't have been clearer. It is not possible to double major in international studies and theater. That one line shatters the myth, because if the program doesn't exist, neither can the degree. Yet, as of today, that same claim, the dual degree in international relations and theater, still sits uncorrected on the royal family's official website. Think about that. This isn't gossip. This is the monarchy's own digital archive, funded by taxpayers, presented as factual history. If this can be wrong, maybe the royal brand was never about accuracy. Maybe it was always about optics. And the story doesn't stop there. The royal site also stated that during her time at Northwestern, Meghan interned at the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where she supposedly became fluent in Spanish. Sounds elegant, doesn't it? A young woman interning abroad, mastering a new language, preparing for a global life. Except, again, reality doesn't quite match the story. Anyone who's actually worked inside a U.S. embassy knows the reality of internships. They're administrative. You file papers, answer phones, and process forms. You don't wander foreign cities or hold diplomatic meetings. Most interns barely interact outside English-speaking circles, and all under strict supervision. So how fluent in Spanish could anyone become in 5 weeks behind a desk? The answer? Not fluid at all. That's not shade. That's just how language learning works. Even seasoned diplomats train for years before they achieve proficiency. Meghan's claimed fluency in 5 weeks isn't just unrealistic, it's impossible. And yet again, the monarchy presented that claim as fact. That one line about Spanish fluency transformed a routine college internship into the foundation of a polished myth. A myth that painted Meghan as a cosmopolitan intellectual fluent in multiple languages, perfectly suited for royal life. The biography added another flattering touch. It claimed she studied French for 6 years. Another polished credential meant to impress. But Northwestern's International Studies track requires students to master 3 foreign languages to an advanced level, not casually study one for a few years. And here's where the illusion cracks even deeper. In an old interview, Meghan herself admitted she'd forgotten most of her French. She laughed about it, a harmless comment, but in the context of her alleged degree, it exposes something bigger, because if she had truly graduated from an international studies track requiring tested fluency in multiple languages, she wouldn't simply forget. You don't lose mastery of 3 languages in a few years, unless you were never fluent in them to begin with. So again, the narrative splits. On paper, we see a polyglot academic achiever. In reality, we see inconsistencies, gaps, and embellishments. And that's what this really comes down to. Not grammar, not small mistakes, but integrity. Because when someone builds an entire persona around qualifications that can't be verified, it stops being about education. It becomes about credibility. Let's break down the logistics one more time. Northwestern's structure makes this dual degree impossible. The 2 programs belong to completely different schools. Each has its own credit system, and none of those credits can overlap. Meaning, to do both, Meghan would have needed 8 years worth of coursework compressed into 4. It simply doesn't happen. So what's left? At most, Meghan earned a degree in communications with a focus in theater, an honest and respectable achievement. But somewhere between the truth and the palace's version, someone decided to embellish. Someone, whether it was Meghan herself or royal PR, rewrote the truth into something grander. And that, right there, is a pattern. Because every detail of Meghan's academic story, the dual degree, the 5-week Spanish fluency, the 6-year French mastery, fits perfectly into one design: the construction of an elite, worldly image, a persona made to impress the crown and the world. But myths only survive as long as no one checks the receipts. And this time, someone did. For years, Meghan's story seemed seamless, from Hollywood beginnings to royal destiny. But there's one small, haunting detail missing: her college graduation. There are photos of Meghan graduating high school, smiling in her cap and gown, her father proudly beside her. But from Northwestern University in 2003, nothing. No graduation photos, no clips, no record of her walking the stage. That doesn't automatically prove she didn't graduate. Not everyone documents their ceremony, but for someone who's chronicled nearly every milestone of her life, from childhood to royal engagements, the absence feels significant. The only record that exists lists her name under the School of Communications, 2003 graduates, which aligns with a standard communications degree, not a dual and international relations. A subtle difference, but one that changes the entire story. And when the evidence is this thin, the silence itself becomes the evidence. The missing photos, the unverified transcripts, the impossible degree, they don't just hint at a mistake. They suggest a carefully constructed illusion. Even her family history reflects the same pattern. Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, paid for her education, from her early private schooling to her high school tuition. That's verifiable. But in many of Meghan's retellings, this part fades, replaced with a narrative of a self-made woman rising on her own. When you put all these pieces together, the embellished education, the rewritten origins, the curated omissions, a picture emerges, one of deliberate reinvention. From Hollywood to the royal gates, Meghan's most powerful performance might not have been on screen at all, but in the script of her own life. Northwestern's final word leaves no room for speculation. It is not possible to double major in international studies and theater. That's not a rumor. That's an official statement. And yet, that exact claim still lives on the royal family's official website, unedited, unchallenged, and protected by silence. So what does that tell us? It tells us that, at the highest levels, truth may be secondary to perception. That the monarchy, with all its researchers, historians, and staff, didn't bother to verify what one email could have revealed. Maybe Meghan assumed no one would ever fact-check. Maybe the palace thought no one would care. But lies, no matter how beautifully crafted, always age badly. And now, years later, the truth is right there, not in tabloids or online gossip, but in the verified words of Northwestern University itself. No dual degree, no international relations program, no 5-week fluency miracle, just the quiet, undeniable certainty of official records. So the next time you scroll through a royal biography or read a palace press release, remember this story. Remember how something as small as one misleading sentence unraveled into a web of deception. Because sometimes truth isn't hidden in the shadows. It's printed in plain sight, wearing gold letters, waiting for someone to finally notice. And once you notice, you'll never see it the same way again.